Okay, well, hello and welcome to our session. So if you're looking to learn all about eco-schools, you've definitely come to the right place. My name is Marie Tremblay and I'm with the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, and I'll be moderating this session. Although as you can see, I'm joined by a number of wonderful co-presenters, including Lindsay Bunce, who's the Executive Director of EcoSchools Canada, Shannon Dougal, who's the Secondary Science Learning Consultant with the CSSD, Alana Olafson, who's the Sustainability Coordinator with the CBE, and Lindsay Lunau, who's the Environmental Outreach Coordinator with the City of Calgary. I do want to point out that we will be sharing a lot of useful resources throughout this presentation. And if you're interested in getting a copy of our presentations, including links to all of these resources, I'll show you how to do that at the end of the presentation. I'll be sharing a link so you can join us that way. I also want to note that this session is being recorded and will be made available through the Alberta Council for Environmental Education's website. This is, I noticed now everybody's on mute, so that's wonderful. You can also ask us some questions. We'll be monitoring the chat throughout the presentations. And if you have any questions, if you want to feel free to put your questions in the chat, that would be great. And you can access the chat usually from the bottom of your Zoom screen. You just need to click there. All right, so for those of you who haven't heard of the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, we're a small nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance environmental education in Alberta's K-12 schools. Our vision is that Alberta's students are environmentally literate and equipped with the knowledge and skills to help create a sustainable future. Now, we'd love to get a sense of who else is in the room with us. I know that we have a small group today. I know that there's some issues going on with the Grenadine, the convention website, but we're happy to have at least a few folks with us. If you want to share with us your name and what grade you teach, what school you're at, that would be really nice. So feel free to enter that information into the chat, if you will. And we'll keep monitoring that as we go. All right, well, I'll come back to the chat in a minute and then just see what kind of entries we have here. Okay, well, welcome, Sean. So teaching high school, okay. Primarily English language arts, that's really interesting. Okay, Anne Claire, St. Michael's, okay, French language arts and socials. And outdoor ed, okay, that's an interesting variety. Noe from Boissonneau, I see here, from grade 8 math and science, from Beignet. Wow, what's really interesting here is lots of different people from teaching different subject areas. And this is actually one of the themes we're really going to touch on here is this idea of cross-curricular integration with environmental education and eco-schools. So let's carry on here to the next slide. I just want to point out that this workshop is part of a 2-day environmental symposium here at the CCTCA titled Hand in Hand, Working Together Toward a Sustainable Calgary. The symposium represents a collaboration between the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, the City of Calgary, and our environmental education community. And the symposium consists of 12 exciting sessions that cover a range of topics, including the EcoSchool certification program, which is what we're going to touch on right now. But there's also sessions on biodiversity, water and waste management, climate change, and also Indigenous perspectives. And to better meet your teaching needs, the sessions have been divided into an elementary and secondary stream. So just so you know, this workshop is designed specifically for secondary teachers. And as noted earlier, all sessions that are part of the symposium are being recorded and will be made available through the Alberta Council for Environmental Education's website, so that you can always go back to them if you miss anything. All right, so just to walk you through the outline for today, I'm going to be providing you with a bit of an introduction and some context as to how EcoSchools Canada came to Calgary. Then I'll invite Lindsay Bunce, the Executive Director of EcoSchools Canada, to give us a tour of the program and its fantastic online platform. And this will be followed by a short presentation from Lindsay Lunau, who's going to talk about what's going on in terms of environmental sustainability at the City of Calgary. And then we'll hear from our two school district representatives on how EcoSchools and environmental stewardship supports school district and learning priorities. And then finally, I'll come back at the end to do a bit of a wrap up. As I've mentioned before, there will be an opportunity, there will be a couple of opportunities for Q&A, and so we encourage you to put your questions in the chat. And as I mentioned before, you can usually access the chat from the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that the City of Calgary is located on Treaty 7 territory, a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route of the Blackfoot Nations, including the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai, as well as the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, and the Métis Region number 3. We further acknowledge that the long history of Indigenous peoples is inextricably tied to this land, and that a unique relationship exists between Indigenous peoples and the natural world. This relationship, which is based above all else on harmony with Mother Earth, has allowed the original inhabitants of these lands to survive and thrive for thousands of years prior to the arrival of the first Europeans. And as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has recognized, reconciliation will never occur unless we're able to be reconciled with the earth. So today, we honor and acknowledge the knowledge keepers, elders, scientists, artists, youth, and teachers like yourselves who seek to move us toward reconciliation, not only with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, but also with our mother, the earth. And we'd like to acknowledge another reality that teachers are facing this year, COVID, and the many challenges and constraints that teachers like yourselves have to deal with because of it. You know, you are our true heroes, and we're so happy to be here at the convention to support you in the important work that you do. Okay, now to give you a bit of context on how EcoSchools Canada came to Calgary. Well, it all started with the City of Calgary adopting its new climate action plan in 2018. And shortly thereafter, a group of us, including the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, the City of Calgary, and Calgary's two major school districts came together to see how we could engage Calgary's school community in helping the city implement its own climate action plan. And this led to the creation of Calgary Schools for Climate Action. One of our first initiatives was to find a framework that would allow schools to track their progress in implementing climate actions and allow us to measure the collective impact of all of these actions in helping the city meet its own climate action targets. Well, our search led us to EcoSchools Canada, a well-established environmental certification program for schools that was exactly what we were looking for. So you'll hear all about this amazing program as soon as I'm done talking. So I'm just going to carry on a little bit here with the introduction. But, you know, our group, as we worked together, we identified three main objectives. And the first one was to engage the school community in collective environmental stewardship and climate action that supports real world action frameworks at multiple scales. So it's the idea of trying to make it like not like these kind of feel good projects, but actually engage the school community in delivering on real goals and targets, okay, from the city level all the way to global. Second goal was to advance literacy around environment, energy, and climate. Obviously, schools are all about learning, and that's our number one focus. And number three, to foster responsible environmental and global citizenship. So I want to now just walk you through a diagram here to kind of show you how all the pieces fit together. So we recognize that the curriculum is at the center of what teachers do. Teachers are mandated to deliver the curriculum. So that is at the center of everything that we want to do here. We also recognize, though, that there are many excellent programs and resources, particularly from our environmental education community. And I'm thinking about partners like Green Calgary, who have like amazing resources on waste management, for example, or CPAWS, who provide excellent educational programming on nature and biodiversity. We realize that those programs are wonderful, and we didn't want to create like yet a new program that would compete with these. but rather we wanted to really create a framework to bring all of these programs together and provide some context for them. All right, so I want to keep all those programs, and then we wanted to kind of layer on then these different contexts, including what's going on with the City of Calgary, not only its climate action plan, but also its other environmental strategies, and we'll hear more about those in a minute. And then we thought it would be great to kind of layer on then this idea of EcoSchools Canada, a national program, so that schools could see themselves as working not just individually, but they're part of larger communities. The Calgary schools working together, and then schools across Alberta, and then also having this sense of working with other schools across our beautiful country. And then finally, at the global level, tying in all of our work to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with this framework. It's really, really interesting. And there are some important goals like number 4 about quality education that are really relevant to us as teachers. And 13, climate action, but also all of these other ones all around sustainability and environmental health. So I'm going to stop here and now invite Lindsay Bunce to carry on and tell us all about the EcoSchools program.
Awesome. Thanks, Marie. Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Oh, good.
Great, perfect. Welcome, and thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about the EcoSchools framework with you. As Marie mentioned, we're excited to be working in partnership with a variety of exceptional educators across Alberta, and I'm excited to sort of share how the national framework works, and then we'll hear from the various school boards on how it's being implemented within their school boards and districts. So we are a registered charity. We operate nationally, and we are the national operator for the EcoSchools program in Canada. So you may or may not know that EcoSchools is delivered around the world in 70 countries, and in every country it's delivered a little bit differently. So we are the national operator for the Canadian version of EcoSchools. There are about 60,000 schools and 19 million students around the world that participate in EcoSchools framework. And so we're really excited to start bringing this program and rolling it out across Canada to help Canadian schools join this global movement. We are the longest standing and largest environmental certification program for K-12 schools in Canada. And it's important to note that all of the resources and training tools I'll be sharing with you are available in English and French and are free to publicly funded schools. So we work with school communities in 5 sort of buckets. One is building environmental leadership and capacity for students. So training opportunities, working in close partnership with groups like ACE and the city to make sure that we're empowering students and teachers to think about climate education and environmental learning and how that relates to action across the school community. We work to improve the operational efficiency of buildings. And so thinking about how schools run and how can we make sure that our ecological footprint is as small as possible. Connecting schools to local resources and strong national and regional partners. A big focus of our work is on recognition. And you'll see it's not necessarily about reinventing the wheel, but about celebrating and recognizing the excellent work that's happening in schools through a collective impact framework. So not only celebrating the success within our school community, but celebrating our success as a complete movement across Canada and situating ourselves in this larger movement. And as Marie mentioned, we do connect to all of this, or many of the Sustainable Development Goals, and are helping to fulfill Canada's commitment to achieving them. Just a bit about our reach last year. So last year we certified about 2,000 schools and engaged directly with 50,000 student leaders. Those 50,000 student leaders then in turn activated about 1 million students across the country on different projects and initiatives across their school community. We work regularly with about 80 community partners, and in spite of the challenges presented by COVID, our goal is still to reach 2 million students by 2022. Our program follows a pretty simple 6-step process. So it's about connecting and building your team at the beginning. And this could be an existing environment club or a social justice club. We often find there's a lot of overlap with existing school clubs or classroom activities within the school. We start by inviting schools to review what they're doing and what they'd like to do. So set yourself up for success by starting small and collaborating on small goals and then growing the program from there. We invite schools to plan and create a custom environmental action plan for their school, and I'll show you how to do that when I demo the online platform. Then activate and engage your broader school community. So how are we going to get other people involved and get them on board and facing the same direction when we're talking about moving that sustainability needle? After those actions have been completed or wrapped up, we encourage schools to reflect on what went well and highlight those successes and take that time to really highlight opportunities for improvement. And then finally, it really is about celebrating and recognizing schools' hard work on the ground. So sharing your accomplishments with the broader school community, with our national network, with the international network of EcoSchools, as well as celebrating your hard work and looking ahead to next year on what we want to change and improve. There are 4 levels of achievement with EcoSchools, from bronze to platinum, and we also have a participant level. So we do want to recognize schools at every step of their journey and every step of the way in terms of their environmental program at school. So you'll see when I demo the platform, each level is associated with a range of points, but those schools that are really just starting out and taking their first steps towards an environmental program at their school can always join the network as a participant. So it's really not about going big in those first years. It's about really starting small, building on that strong foundation, and then expanding and growing the program from there. Just a quick note about COVID, because it is sort of top of mind as we think about challenges and barriers that we're experiencing across the education sector. At the onset of this year, EcoSchools performed a risk assessment for each of the actions that I'm going to be sharing with you. And we developed sort of comprehensive ways to adjust and amend these actions so that they can be completed in a variety of learning settings, including remote learning, hybrid learning, and in-school learning with safety measures in place. So as you go through the platform on your own, you'll be able to click and access the risk assessment and access a little bit of information on how these different actions can be modified to accommodate COVID restrictions. So I'm going to quickly hop over to the demo here and just show you a little bit about our platform. So as Marie mentioned, our platform really is a framework. So we sort of set up the criteria for certification, but we really encourage schools to bring it to life in a way that works for them. So reaching out to those community partners that you traditionally work with or usually work with, taking advantage of those strong supports from organizations like ACEE and through the city, and really bringing it to life in a way that makes sense to you. So a school might start on their dashboard here. This is just sort of a snapshot of what's happening on the platform. And this is a space that's designed to be a collaborative environment for both students and adult members of the school community. So we have safety measures in place to ensure that the privacy and security of students is always top of mind. We don't collect and store any student information, but students can access the platform as an Eco Team member and then start to manipulate and contribute to the application itself. So really trying to put agency and autonomy in students' hands. And particularly within the secondary panel, we see a lot of students being the leaders and taking on the application process. So teachers are there more as a guide and a facilitator, and students are really taking on that action of pulling together the application. A school would start off in the library. So for the first year of the national launch, we launched with 43 actions, and they may be actions that you know and love already and things that are happening in your school. And this also might be an invitation to consider different and new actions that you might want to add. We've tried to blend e-learning with e-commerce in terms of a user experience to make it very accessible and user-friendly. So if a school wanted to take on anti-idling, for example, they can just add it to their action plan, and it's as easy as that. So again, maybe looking at supporting Canadian species at risk, you can add that to your plan. And this is intended to be a dynamic and collaborative experience for students and teachers, where we have a conversation around what actions we want to take on, what are those that are locally relevant, what might we be already taking on, and what projects are already underway that we can build on or grow or get recognized for, and then what local supports are available to help us fulfill these actions and take them on in a meaningful way. schools can then navigate to their custom annual action plan. And so this is a space where those actions you've selected just reside. And as I mentioned earlier, you can always toggle between English and French at any moment. So schools that want to complete the application in one language can do that, but also French immersion schools that want to complete a portion in English and a portion in French are free to do that as well. The plan is intended to be, again, a dynamic space. So if schools decide, halfway through the year, it's really not feasible to run a walk and roll campaign this year, they can just delete that from their plan. And so schools, between their application creation time and application submission time, they can really grow and expand or shrink the scope of their environmental action plan for that year. So it really is designed to be responsive and dynamic. With each of these actions, there's a lot of information provided to students and teachers. So by clicking on the action, you can access a little bit about the action, so some rationale as to why we would take that action on. Some links to curriculum, and for this year, we've really anchored the program in sort of high-level curriculum subject areas, but you'll see later that the school boards in Calgary have done some great work in partnership with ACE on really narrowing down and providing very explicit connections to curriculum. We connect to the Foundation for Environmental Education themes, and these are common in EcoSchools programs around the world. We connect to the SDGs, and we also provide a little bit of inspiration from other EcoSchools around the country. So this is a space where schools can draw inspiration from other schools. They can see how they've tackled this specific action, and where our carousel of photos is growing all the time. Every action has an action guide, and this is written in such a way that it's not necessarily prescriptive instructions, but just things to consider as you're taking on this action. So we really want schools to be able to look at the action and consider how it might be implemented in a way that's relevant for them. There are different tools here, so you'll see survey kits and data collection tools that will help you fulfill the action as well. Every action is also accompanied by a series of resources. So right now we've got some national and regional resources. And again, these lists are being built out in more comprehensive ways all the time. And finally, we have certification questions. And this is just a bit of data collection where you're reporting back to us on what happened in your school and the impact that it has had. And schools can decide how many questions they want to answer. So if they're just looking at maybe an awareness building campaign, they might fill out, the first 3 or 4 questions, which talk about the scope of the action, how many students participated, some of those opportunities for student leadership and communication strategies. If you wanted to get a little bit deeper and get into the data collection, we also have metric-based questions that directly correlate to specific sustainability metrics, which I'll share in a minute. So as a school hops in and completes different questions through the certification questions tab, you can see that the level of the number of points accumulated for this action increases. So this school has answered a few questions. They're able to achieve 3.5 points out of a possible 10 points, and they can make the decision to either come back later and keep working on this action throughout the year, or complete the action as is and claim those 3.5 points. We also have an impact page. And so for this year, we've selected 9 impact tiles, and these are all zeros because this is a demo school. But these are directly connected to specific metrics questions on each action. And so again, it's really trying to put agency and autonomy in students' hands as they're thinking about how they want to see the impact of their actions, but then again, how they want to move the needle and improve their performance year over year. So we know just from pedagogical theory that, students really perform better when they have an understanding of where they are and how they can improve. And so this is an effort to help them do that. We also have the ability to benchmark year over year. So here is a great example of hours of outdoor learning. So as a school starts to complete their application, they'll be able to see their performance this year, their performance last year, and then benchmark that against a Canadian average across all of the EcoSchools. Thinking about collective impact, we also have the ability to aggregate this information and show students where they situate on the larger landscape across Canada. So you can see this is live data. So we have just over 1,000 schools on the platform right now across Canada. And we've got nearly 6,500 environmental leaders working on actions at their school. One thing we're tracking in a really big way this year is hours of outdoor learning as it relates to both enriching learning by learning in the out of doors, but also as a response to COVID, we're seeing a lot more teachers taking their students out and teaching a variety of curriculum subject areas outside in the great outdoors. So I'll just pop back to my presentation here. So just a few examples of what this might look like on the ground. I'm sure you're thinking this is all fun and good online, but how will this look in my school? And so particularly with secondary school students in the upper grades, we see a lot of connections to things that are important to students. So fashion being a really big one, looking at textile recycling and fast fashion and the consumer behavior around that. So doing some inquiry projects and exploring how we may make more sustainable choices. And then often a culminating task with this is creating a sustainable fashion show where we create different fashions out of different materials. And then we've also seen students during non-COVID times host an actual fashion show, which becomes a fundraiser for their school. We also see a lot of collaboration with tech classes and a variety of different other groups that are operating in the school. So here is a great example of a Vermi Composter that was built as a classroom project, but now fulfills this fantastic purpose in the school community to provide a worm bin to support vermi composting. A lot of active transportation campaigns as well, so supporting biking and walking to school, as well as taking public transit to school if that's an option for some schools. We see a lot of pledges, and I would say particularly around sort of environmental actions, but specifically around harmful single-use plastics. So a lot of awareness raising around bottled water, access to clean water, and then the impacts of choosing a reusable water bottle as opposed to a single-use plastic bottle. So we can see really creative ways to showcase that messaging and start tracking some of the data behind it. So how many water bottles are coming into the school in a given week, we can see here on the left-hand side. We see a lot of also citizen science and community science projects emerging from older grades participating in the program. So partnering with local nature groups like CPAWs or conservation authorities, and seeing how students can get involved in these sort of larger scientific initiatives that are contributing to biodiversity, removing invasives, and really bettering the natural environment. And finally, we see a lot of connections to social justice and eco-justice in the older grades participating in EcoSchools. So here is a food bank garden. So not only is the school taking on this action of growing local food, they're also contributing that food and donating that food to their local food bank. So thinking about how their actions not only are having an environmental impact, but there's also this social benefit that is coming and emerging out of the actions taken in the school community. So because the platform is free to use, I encourage you all to register at app.ecoschools.ca, and you can explore the ECA, which is the EcoSchools certification application, at your leisure. So you can access some national and local resources, and you can also make a plan or just hop in and check out some of the actions that are there. As I said, it's likely that you're already doing a lot of these actions in your school already, and this is perhaps a framework that can help to recognize and provide a little bit of structure to those actions. There are 4 activities or actions that I just wanted to highlight as sort of quick wins that are coming up shortly. So one is National Goose Paper Day. And Goose stands for good on one side. So National Goose Paper Day involves creating a goose bin. Often the goose bins are shaped like geese, and students have this opportunity to get very creative. And the goose bins are placed strategically around the school or at home to hold good on one side paper. And then helps us to ensure that both sides of the paper are used before it ends up in the recycling bin. So it sometimes can really have an impact on a school's paper use and paper budget. Of course, Earth Day is coming up, and EcoSchools is hosting a national environmental education conference in and around Earth Day. So I encourage you to check out the ECOM conference and think about Earth Day as an opportunity to kick off an initiative or think about your sustainability program within your school. There's also Young Reporters for the Environment, which is an international journalism and eco-photo competition where students are encouraged to either take photos, make videos, or write an article about something that they're passionate about. So one way of becoming advocates for the environment through a variety of eco-journalism avenues. And finally, the Great Gulp is a synchronized sip of tap water that we take all across Canada together around World Water Day to really highlight the importance of access to clean tap water, as well as reducing those single-use harmful plastic bottles. So we all take a sip together out of a reusable cup and water bottle and start that conversation and awareness building around that waste issue. Finally, so the ECA is a great place to learn about the program, but you can also check us out on social media. So our social media channels are very active with different types of professional development opportunities, as well as tools to support student learning. And as well, our website has a bunch of resources and different ways that you can get engaged and ways to learn more about how to get involved. Finally, I just have to give a quick high five to all of our supporters. So we're very grateful to be working in partnership with a variety of leaders across the sector that are enabling us to do this important work across Canada. And I'll kick it back to you. Oops, sorry. I'll stop.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay. Wow, I loved all your examples of projects. There's a lot of creativity happening, and I love to see that because I think it really highlights the potential for incorporating these actions and learning around the environment really across the curriculum. So with the interest of keeping us on time, I'm going to invite Lindsay, our second Lindsay now, Lindsay Lunau from the city, to queue up her presentation. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now, but feel free to put your questions in the chat if you have any. And, I'll ask Lindsay Bunce, she can answer those questions as we go along. But let's hear from Lindsay Lunau now. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Marie, and hi everyone. I'm really glad everyone was able to make it into the session. I heard there were some problems getting in, so we're super happy to have you. I'm just here sort of to talk about the city's perspective on achieving our goals. It's really important for us to have community partnerships to be able to achieve the goals that are laid out in our different strategies, plans, and frameworks. So as a result, as Marie said in the beginning, moving towards EcoSchools and having it supported by the City of Calgary is really, really important for us as a means of partnering in the community. So previously, the City of Calgary, through environmental management, offered the Eco Leaders programs. But unfortunately, Eco Leaders, we were only able to reach 30 schools a year, which was quite limited. And with the EcoSchools program, we're so excited that it's now open to all of the Calgary schools. The other thing with EcoSchools is the city's really excited about that combined reporting that Lindsay was talking about, so that we can show students across the city, that their collective actions really matter, and that we can also report that on a municipal level as well. So we're really excited that in partnering with ACE and EcoSchools, the schools that are participating will have an opportunity to access City of Calgary subject matter experts for different areas that they're working on in their action plan. And in addition to that, we're going to be making room at the annual Mayor's Environment Expo for EcoSchools to come and share their different projects that they've been working on and to be recognized for their participation. So I just wanted to highlight really quickly some very specific ties between EcoSchools actions and City of Calgary plans and strategies. So we'll start with the City of Calgary's climate resilience strategy, which was approved in 2018. And when you get a copy of all of my slides, they are all hyperlinked through the JPEGs. So if you want to find out more about our climate program, you can click here, or the climate resilience strategy, the same with all of my other slides. So the climate resilience strategy, like I said, was approved in 2018. And as part of the climate resilience strategy, we are supporting Calgary Schools for Climate Action, which helped to bring EcoSchools to Calgary. And that still remains a subcommittee of the Calgary Climate Panel, meaning that there's ongoing support from the city for EcoSchools. There's also really great ties within things that the city's already doing or offering for EcoSchool action. So I'll highlight a couple right now related to energy consumption, waste reduction, and active transportation. So the first one, we've taken off doing a lot of really great solar projects at the city. The Shepard Solar Park was finished in 2018 and was at the time and still is the largest solar park installation in Canada. We've also got solar at the Bears Paw water treatment plant and on top of Southland Leisure Centre. So for your students, you can always visit this site and learn more about each of those solar installations. Waste and recycling services has been amazing in supporting schools, and they've got lots of educational resources on their site. One of my favorite is the Sort It Right quiz, where students can just take it at their own time and sort items into different bins and test their knowledge there. And our transportation planning group has done a lot around cycling education and supporting different things like bike to school days. There's lots of information here on this site. On the other side, we are also working within the city to bring together all of our different environment policies together under one strategy. So combining, for instance, our water policies or our goals around air quality. And the environment strategy and action plan will be proposed to council in June of this year, and it will have a lot of ties to different eco-school actions, including around biodiversity and naturalization, water efficiency, air quality, and I'll finish off just highlighting the Mayor's Expo at the end. So when we all had to go home last year because of COVID, our Parks Department and Recreation Department worked to put a whole bunch of different at-home learning resources on the website. And a lot of them are tied to really cool things. I'll highlight just the things related to our pollinators and bee hotels. We became a bee city in 2019, and we're supporting a lot of different actions around pollinators, specifically bees. One of the resources here is how you can actually build a bee hotel. And we've also moved forward with a, oh shoot, sorry, I opened my own link here. A bee boulevard in Canyon Meadows. So that's also a place where it might be possible to take a field trip where you can see a lot of different flowers that support our pollinating population and a whole different series of different bee hotels for different types of pollinators. Maggie Nelson's also worked really hard from Water Resources to bring forward this bioengineering demonstration and education project in the neighborhood of Inglewood. There's lots of resources online to share with students, and you can also visit the actual demonstration site as well. And we're partnered with CRAS for air quality within Calgary. We're working with them right now to try and get purple air monitors for schools in Calgary. They basically monitor just one area of air quality, but it's interesting for schools to be able to do that. So we're working hard to get those for EcoSchools, but you can also check out the ongoing monitoring that happens for our air quality within Calgary through CRAS. And I'll just finish off. I am the main organizer for the annual Mayor's Environment Expo. For this year, the Expo is going to be 100% virtual just to make it easier on everyone. Currently, we're at around 80 workshop offerings, and we'll be opening registration in April. And I encourage everyone, follow the link to sign up for our mailing list or email me if you'd like to get involved. And really great ties to EcoSchools. And for the participating schools this year, we're also hoping to be virtually featuring them at Mayor's Environment Expo. Okay, Marie, I hope I was in my time. I'll pass it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I just think it's great to hear about everything that's going on with the City of Calgary. There's lots going on, and I think I'm hoping that the teachers that are with us can see how they can actually engage their students in a lot of these initiatives. So I really appreciate you being here and providing that perspective. I noticed I'm going to invite now Alana Olafsson from the Calgary Board of Education to line up her presentation. I noticed that a number of people have been putting questions in the chat, and they are being answered as we go along. We do have 5 presenters, so we have a lot of capacity here to answer questions. For the sake of keeping us on track, and we do want to make sure that we finish this presentation on time, I'm going to invite Alana then to present. You can put yourself in presentation mode. That's perfect. That looks good. Great. Take it away. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to keep them coming through the chat. Thanks. Go ahead, Alana.
Thank you, Marie. Thanks for having me as part of this panel of speakers to present on the school district perspective. And thank you to everyone for attending the session today. Just really quickly, I wanted to address the question that came up in the chat about growing your own food and then donating it. So I'll have to check on what the current restrictions and guidelines are, but I know that pre-COVID that did happen at a school level. So various schools in the community would grow their own food and either use it in their culinary or foods programs, or they would donate to community, or they would even have an internal celebration. I know one school did a salad celebration, and so they made salad and shared it among the classes. So that likely isn't allowed right now, but I'm sure that there are some concessions that are made around growing and sharing. So I'd have to check into that. So I always like to start off my presentation to give kind of a perspective of how large our system is, because I know that every school community sort of is an autonomous community within our school board, but we're also part of a system of schools. And then our school board is part of a larger system of schools across Alberta. And so within Calgary, our student and employee population is actually equivalent to the 5th largest city in Alberta. So that kind of gives you some context over how many staff and students we contain in our community, and also that we are the 2nd largest landowner after the City of Calgary. So we have a lot of buildings and land that we manage here in the Calgary city limits. And so at the top, set by board direction, by school board direction, are the operational expectations and results. And so these, I've highlighted these two because these speak directly to some of the environmental policies and connections that environmental learning and sustainability action on the facility side, how they roll up to the board level policies. And so under these policies, we have our 3-year education plan, which is on the next slide, and also the Cbe Sustainability Framework. So the Cbe Sustainability Framework, we are just wrapping up our 2020 framework. So we set targets in energy, water, waste, student connection to the environment, as well as how we engage staff in caring for our kind of our corporate sustainability and also the connection to the land. And so we are in that data collection and how did we do against our targets phase of the framework. So this is going to be a big reporting year and a big celebration year, because as a community, I think we did quite well towards some of the aspirational targets. So some of the targets we set probably higher than what we could achieve, but something to strive for. And it'll also be a year of what comes next. So which municipal, provincial, federal targets do we align ourselves to? And with that, we are also a partner with the climate resiliency strategy. The Cbe sits on the climate panel with the city. And so there's some really good alignment and partnership there in trying to achieve our municipal targets. And so here's just a overview of the 3-year education plan. And so the student pieces sit under achievement and well-being, and the kind of the facility pieces around sustainability sit under strategic allocation of resources. And of course, we all work as a community together, and that's one of the reasons why we think alignment to EcoSchools is really great, because they really talk about collective action and also a placeholder where you can mark the action that you're doing already and how does that impact kind of not only your school community, but a larger community. So here is a brief snapshot of examples that I wanted to share with you that are all collaborative projects. So starting with awesome student and teacher ideas, but happen then kind of roll up to the community, school community level, and then the larger community. So you have Arbor Lake did a single-use plastic initiative in raising awareness around tap water versus bottled water. And then they demonstrated their project at the Mayor's Environment Expo. We have one of our schools has a geodesic dome greenhouse where they've been growing their own food inside. Here's an example of data collection at a school level where, and then that is used in the classroom to kind of make energy data come alive. And I really like this graph because it sort of shows the green line is your solar panel generation superimposed over the school energy use. And so you can really see how those, how the solar energy offsets the school use energy. And here are the solar panels that have just recently been installed at Joan Cardinal Schubert High School. And schools really interested in the waste they produce and how they can reduce it, and even how they can be more effective in using the 4-bin system at their school site. So just a brief snapshot of some of the awesome initiatives that are going on at schools already. And when Lindsay Bunce was put her presentation up online, you can see where these directly tie into the action projects that are listed on the EcoSchools platform. So with that, here's my email. Please email any questions that you might have on what's going on at the system level, or how we can help you with some of the data pieces of the projects that you are already taking on. And I will hand it off to Shannon to give the school and teacher perspective.
Thank you so much, Alana. Well, that was great. Just a reminder too, to every people who have joined us a bit late, I will be sharing a link that allows you then to access all of the presentations and resources at the end of this presentation. And we'll also share everyone's emails, addresses as well. So our next and final presenter today is Shannon Dougal. And Shannon is from the CSSD, that's the Calgary Separate School District, and she's going to give us more of a teacher perspective. Over to you, Shannon. Yeah, we're seeing your presentation. It's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Shannon Dougal, and I am the secondary science consultant with the Calgary Separate School District. And I'm here to share sort of CSSD's perspective on EcoSchools and how we're loving this program and how we can support you in classrooms as well. So I'll just start with a few things with the connections with EcoSchools. So our Board of Trustees set out priorities, and for this year, we can see the wheel here. And EcoSchools ties very nicely into a lot of the pieces of this puzzle here. So in the top corner, you can see that we have student-centered learning and assessment practices, and that's a big focus of EcoSchools, hitting one of our major things there. Knowing and supporting the social emotional wellness of all students. And then also the incorporation of FNMI and the connection to land, and also being a lifelong learner. So these are very important things that connect with CSSD's vision, Board of Trustees, that align with EcoSchools as well. And now I'm just going to go through quickly because I don't have too much time, but top 5 questions that I felt that all educators would have about EcoSchools, and questions that I get on a regular basis with regards to this. So how would my class benefit from this? So like I had mentioned before in the previous slide, it aligns nicely with CSSD priorities, so student success, FNMI, and student wellness, which is 3 of the 4. It also aligns with a bunch of our vision statements. So aligning with things like students will be lifelong learners and contributors to society. Number 2, how might EcoSchools be incorporated into a high school or a junior high? So in a high school, we're seeing a lot of EcoSchools being incorporated as extracurricularly. It can also be incorporated in science, social studies, and there are links, and we'll talk about that curricular links specifically. In a junior high, it could for sure be used as an option, and I think, or incorporated in social or science as well, and there's lots of other cross-curricular things as well. And in the junior high, I think the main important thing here is if you wanted to use it as an option, EcoSchools, it's ready to go. It's a program that's outlined already for you, and as a teacher, you could run this program in your school starting tomorrow. So I think that's important. Number 3, is there a list of overlapping outcomes between EcoSchools and Alberta science curriculums? And the answer is absolutely. So on my next slide here, I'm going to talk about the curricular fits, and there's specific links to Alberta science curriculums, which I know all teachers will love. And the other thing with number 3 and overlapping outcomes is the outcomes in EcoSchools can also be achieved, and the Alberta science curriculum outcomes can be achieved using a hybrid model, virtual, online schooling, that kind of stuff as well. Number 4, could EcoSchools be completed as an entire school initiative? And absolutely, it would be really great for an entire school to take on the initiative of EcoSchools. And with the 40 action cards, they could be split up between classes. It could be a TA challenge. It could be a K-9 school that takes this on. And then the actions are divvied up depending on level. So kindergartens would get, and grade 1s would get actions that are appropriate to their level, or grade 9s, or the whole school can participate in the actions together. And again, it's part of this collective action at its finest. And it could be a part of a school plan. So if you are in touch with your administrators and this is something you wanted to look at, for sure you could mention, and those go in September. Number 5, could EcoSchools be completed as an extracurricular activity? For sure. So we're seeing it in things like student leadership programs, social justice programs, especially at the secondary level, outdoor education, elementary schools that have junior high in them, in recycling programs and that kind of stuff. And I know now that extracurricular options are being ran, and so this is where I think it can still be incorporated into curriculum. And again, I can't reiterate enough that the program is ready to go. And as a teacher, if you can, once you're able to see the curricular links, it's super easy to be incorporating this into your classroom as well. So we'll go on to the next. So here we have the curricular links and the curricular connections. So they're all outlined here. So I have the links, and we'll share this presentation after, and you can go in and click on the direct links here. But we've got science. So for junior high science, grade 7, 8, and 9, the links, and also for social. And you'll notice here at the bottom, the high school links are coming soon. So particular high school links, ACE is working on the connections for that right now, and they will be available, I'm sure, very soon. And so just to get an idea, this was a screenshot from the grade 9 science curriculum for Unit A, biological diversity. And ACE has done a really nice job of outlining the links with EcoSchools to things like links to place and nature. So we can see that. We've got links to Indigenous perspectives that are directly in the curriculum. And I know people are always trying to incorporate Indigenous perspectives, so that's a great thing as well. And also, lastly, links to climate change. So how does this increase student literacy around climate, things like that. And yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help. And my email will be shared at the end. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Great. So I'm just looking at the time here, and actually we're right on track. So I am going to proceed now with a bit of a wrap up for this session. I've just got a few more slides to share. And as I've mentioned before, at the end, I will make sure that we share a link where you can contact us to get all of the presentations and the fantastic resources that you've seen here today. This is also our own Zoom session, by the way, that's somewhat independent of the convention. So we're certainly going to be available as well to hang out for a few minutes after this session. We'll stop the recording, and if anyone has any questions, we can just have a few informal minutes together to share if there's an interest in that. All right. Well, in the interest here of wrapping things up, I just want to quickly reiterate, if you will, or drive home 10 great reasons why your school might want to become an eco school. So here we go, from 1 to 10. As with Shannon, which is talking about, we offer explicit links to the Alberta curriculum. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. This program is adaptable to all grades. So there's something in there from all grades, from kindergarten to grade 12. Certainly with the older students, there's lots of opportunity here to take on some leadership roles. We worked really hard to link this to real world action plans and strategies from local to global. So local here, we're talking about working hand in hand with our very own City of Calgary, and also tying into the sustainable development goals at the global scale. EcoSchools offers a step-by-step process for creating a flexible environmental action plan that can be specifically tailored to your school. And that's one thing I really, really appreciate about this program. It's not a one-size-fits-all. There's 40 actions to choose from, and schools get to pick and choose those that they're interested in or that fit their own priorities. And there's even space to create your own actions if schools want to get real creative. I'm on number 5 now. Yeah, there's 40 actions to choose from, so that's tremendous. And each one comes with its own action guide and resources. Number 6, as you saw from Lindsay Bunce's presentation, it comes with a really incredibly user-friendly online platform that allows you to track not only your own school's progress, but then the collective impact of multiple schools in multiple jurisdictions at multiple scales. There's an opportunity to network, share, and celebrate with other schools. Remember, this is all about, tapping into the power of collective action. Number 8, it offers ample opportunity to develop the skills and knowledge to help create a sustainable future. And number 9, and this is a great opportunity also to create a sense of hope and agency amongst your students by engaging them in solutions to our most pressing environmental problems. And then finally, last but not least, it's totally free for all publicly funded schools here in Calgary. And that's thanks to our partnership with the City of Calgary, who's offered their support for this. So that's also a really nice benefit. All right, so just a couple more things to bring to your attention. First of all, I do want to point you to our website on the Alberta Council for Environmental's website. We've titled it here, EcoSchools Canada in Calgary. So as the on-the-ground delivery partner, we've created this special website designed specifically for Calgary teachers. So if you want to know what's going on here in Calgary at the local level, everything's on this website. And that includes then, and I know I had a question around this, these local supports for EcoSchools actions. So last year we reached out to our environmental education community and asked them, what resources and what programs do you have that would support these 40 actions from EcoSchools? And we compiled all of those and put them on our website here. So you can access them by theme. And I really invite you to check this out, because this is what's going on locally. So the Green Calgary, CPAWS, all of our part Inside Education are featured here. And they're all aware of the EcoSchools program and working to provide means to help teachers implement it. And Shannon went over this in a fair bit of detail, our curriculum links. I did also want to point out, like here we have an example from social studies. So there's lots of cross-curricular links that can be done, particularly when we're talking about like global citizenship and community. And also, we've also made links to all of the City of Calgary's strategies. So that's the red box actually. And here's just another example of that. I just want to bring that to your attention one more time. Shannon did a wonderful job of putting all those links into her presentation, but they're actually all on our website, and you can access these links by grade and by subject area. And we are still working on grades 10 to 12. Stay tuned. We hope to get those out later this year. And then I just want to put in an extra plug here for the symposium. It's still early days in the convention, and there's still a number of sessions here coming up, specifically designed for secondary teachers like yourselves. So next up, at noon here, we have one on Indigenous perspectives on sustainability. We'll be talking after that about climate change. And tomorrow we'll have 2 great sessions on biodiversity and also waste management, but looking at it from a whole system perspective from cradle to grave. So this brings me then to this slide about our funders, and of course, a huge shout out to them. Without their generous support, of course, our work to support teachers in infusing more environmental education into their teaching would not be possible. So we're super grateful for their support. And this brings me to my very last slide, which features all of the contact information of our presenters, but most importantly, is the link here, and I'll put this in the chat right away. This is the link to the form. It's a very quick form that you can fill out just to give us your contact information, and then we'll send you the resources and the presentations that we talked about today. There's also an opportunity in this form to provide us some feedback on the presentation. We really value teachers' feedback so that we can continually improve our workshops. Those questions are optional, but if you want to give us some feedback, we would really, really appreciate that. So anyways, I'm going to end there, and thank you once again for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed this session, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of the convention. Hopefully all the technical issues will get resolved. I'm going to now stop the recording, and